If you thought things couldn't get any darker in the Diddy saga, think again. Week 2 of the trial, and it's already explosive. Multiple people have now stepped into the courtroom with one mission: to speak out against Sean Diddy Combs and their stories. They're painting a horrifying picture of what allegedly went on behind closed doors. Cassie Ventura, the woman at the center of it all, finally took the stand. And her words weren't just emotional, they were chilling. She didn't just tell the courtroom what happened. The government showed them. But this isn't fiction. You may remember her from Danity Kane, the girl group Diddy helped launch. But this week, she was back in the spotlight for a completely different reason. According to Dawn, she personally saw Diddy punch Cassie in the face. Not once, not twice, multiple times. She told the court about one shocking moment in the hallway of his home. He hit her, closed fist, just like that. She says she begged Cassie to leave him, but Cassie stayed. Then came Carrie Morgan, Cassie's former best friend. She painted a similar picture. Carrie says she saw Diddy shove Cassie in a Hollywood Hills home, but it didn't stop there. In Jamaica, things got worse. "I heard screaming," she testified. Not just regular screaming. It was guttural, terrifying. Diddy, now facing the possibility of life in prison, says he's not guilty. He's denied everything. But these aren't just rumors flying around the internet anymore. This is real, under oath, in front of a jury. And today, the courtroom was on edge. Our cameras caught up with ABC's Aaron Katursky, who's been there every day. He says it wasn't just what Don Richards said, but how the defense tried to rip it apart. Apparently, Don's story has changed. Not once, not twice, but up to 4 times. The defense lawyer pushed hard, trying to paint her as unreliable. But Dawn didn't back down. She told the court that Diddy once tried to swing a frying pan at Cassie. Another time, he allegedly punched her in the stomach, right there in a restaurant full of celebrities. Usher and Nayo were supposedly at that dinner too. As the trial barrels forward, the tension in that courtroom is like a pressure cooker, and it hit a boiling point when Don Richard and Carrie Morgan were just a few feet away from Sean Combs, the man at the center of all this chaos. So how did Diddy react? He didn't lose it. He didn't even flinch, but he definitely wasn't ignoring it either. He sat there, stone-faced, scribbling notes, whispering with his legal team, and occasionally shaking his head. Some say he even nodded along, like he was listening to a podcast he'd heard a million times before. But it wasn't just words flying across the courtroom today. It was flashbacks. Painful ones. Let's talk about the hammer. Yes, a literal hammer. After that, now infamous freakout at the Intercontinental Hotel, Carrie Morgan said Cassie came home with a black eye. That part we already knew, but here's what we didn't. About 30 minutes later, Combs allegedly showed up at her door, banging, yelling, with a hammer. Carrie says she heard him from inside and didn't know what to do. Cassie didn't want to involve the police. She was scared and silent. It got so loud that neighbors called the cops, but when the police showed up, Cassie wouldn't speak. She wouldn't even show them her ID. And Carrie? She didn't call them either. That silence is part of what the prosecution wants the jury to understand. Why didn't she run? Why didn't she scream? Why stay? Why say yes when she wanted to say no? Because violence, and the fear of more, can be paralyzing. The prosecution is trying to show that Cassie wasn't a willing participant in all the sexual acts she described earlier in the trial, that she went along with it because she was scared of what would happen if she didn't. And Carrie Morgan's testimony gave weight to that claim. She's not even friends with Cassie anymore. They stopped talking years ago. She said she wasn't there to help a friend. She was there because she felt obligated to tell the truth. That part made the jury sit up a little straighter. She even dropped her own bombshell, that Combs once grabbed her by the neck and hurled a wooden hanger at her during an argument. She wasn't just a bystander. She had her own story too. And Don Richard? Well, her moment on the stand ended today, but not without fireworks. Sure, on Friday she came in strong, but Monday, the defense came swinging. They poked holes in her story, showing that she'd changed key details not once, not twice, but 4 times. Whether it was about the frying pan, the punches, or the shouting, the timeline didn't add up. The defense called it revenge, said she was bitter because Combs broke up both music groups she was part of, Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money. They painted her as someone chasing a payday, not justice. But even with the cross-examination fireworks, something stuck. Both women, Carrie and Dawn, described violence. Not rumors, not whispers, things they say they saw with their own eyes. And now, it's up to the jury to decide which version of the truth they believe. Now, here's where it gets even more real. Photos from Diddy's hotel room at the Intercontinental in Los Angeles, snapped the very day he was arrested, have officially been entered into evidence. And they aren't just random snapshots. These pictures practically scream "Freak Off Central." Lined up like props from a horror movie were baby oil, prescription pills, a strobe light, and, yes, ketamine. Investigators also found nearly $9,000 in cash, right there in the room. That lines up with what Cassie had been saying all along. The drugs, the mood lights, the money, the setup, the freak-offs. One witness even testified he was paid thousands of dollars to participate in those parties. And let's just say his range was a few $100 to $6,000. So $9K in the room? That tracks. The prosecution is using these images to prove that this wasn't just Cassie's word. This was a full-blown pattern. And hey, with inflation these days, she jokes, I guess even a freak-off gets more expensive. But back in court, the defense wasn't just sitting back. Celebrity attorney Mark Agnifilo took a swing at Carrie Morgan's testimony, and while it wasn't a home run, he definitely managed to land a few hits. He tried to show the jury a softer side of Cassie and Diddy's relationship. The smiles, the laughs, the late-night parties that didn't end in violence. According to him, not everything was toxic. He even pointed out that Carrie once encouraged the couple to stay together, calling their love real. It's a strategy. Show the jury that this wasn't black and white, that there were shades of romance in the chaos, that some of the wildness might have been mutual. But here's where it gets sticky. Remember when Carrie said Combs assaulted her too? Well, she also admitted that Cassie gave her $30,000 not to talk about that moment. The same moment where Diddy allegedly threw a hanger at her and grabbed her by the throat. That hush money is now front and center in this case. It raises big questions. Was this damage control? Was it fear? Or was it loyalty? Now, let's switch gears. Because tonight, we're not just hearing from critics, we're hearing from someone who stood by Diddy for over 35 years. Charlucci Finney, a lifelong friend and part of Combs' inner circle, is speaking out. Apparently, Diddy is choosing exactly who gets to sit inside that courtroom with him every day, and Charlucci made the cut. That tells us everything about his position in Diddy's world. He's been at Diddy's side for decades. Through the rise, through the riches, through the now unfolding legal storm. So the question becomes, you've probably seen him in the courtroom. Front row, every day, sitting just feet away from Sean Combs. But who is Charlucci Finney? To Combs, he's not just a friend. He's family. And he's one of the few people Diddy still allows inside that courtroom bubble. So when asked, why stay loyal to someone facing such serious charges? Charlucci doesn't even flinch. I didn't have a choice, he says. That's my brother. I ride with him. To him, Sean Combs isn't a monster. He's funny. He's kind. He's a dad, a son, a visionary, he says. I've known him for over 35 years. This guy they're describing, that's not the Sean I know. When asked directly if he believed Diddy committed the crimes, racketeering, sex trafficking, he said without hesitation, absolutely not. He dismissed the charges as wild accusations, and as for the court's promise to reveal the full truth, Charlucci says he's still waiting. They said he did all these insane things, so show us, show the world, where is it? Then came the harder questions. What about the control Cassie said Diddy had over her life? The nail polish, the outfits, even the hairstyles? Charlucci shrugged. That's showbiz. Artists have a look, a style. When you're building a brand, that's part of it. According to him, it wasn't about domination. It was about presentation. Just like Michael Jackson didn't moonwalk into Starbucks wearing sequins and a single glove, Cassie's polished look was part of her image. He was producing an artist, he said. She represented Bad Boy. Then came the freak-offs. And Charlucci kept it blunt. Did I know about them? No. Was I surprised? Not really. Two grown people doing grown things in private. To him, it was Cassie and Diddy's personal business, not a criminal conspiracy. And violence? He claims he never saw a single moment of it. Never laid a hand on her. Not in front of me, he insists. He admits the infamous hotel surveillance video didn't look good, but says, "That's domestic. That's not sex trafficking. Let's not confuse the charges." The host pressed again. Was Cassie free to leave? Yes, Charlucci responded. I believe she was. I agree with the defense. That's not my field, but I've heard the testimony. He was also surprised to learn about the alleged drug use, and especially shocked by talk of overdoses. No, never knew. But that's private life. Even close friends don't know everything. And when asked about those quiet glances shared between him and Combs during the trial, Charlucci smiled slightly. Sometimes, you don't need words. We've been through a lot. Every morning, as the cameras flash and the city buzzes, one man is always there. Steady, loyal, unwavering. Charlucci Finney doesn't just show up for Sean Combs. He walks his family into that courtroom. And those silent glances he shares with Diddy? They're not just for show. He's telling me not to worry, Charlucci says. He's in there thinking about us, making sure we're okay. He's sitting behind bars worried about us. That kind of loyalty? It's rare. And he's making it clear, I'll be here every single day, until the very end. But while Diddy's inner circle remains close, the internet is exploding with outside speculation. It's not just the courtroom that's buzzing. Social media is obsessed. And today's hottest search? Carrie Morgan, Cassie's former best friend. A model, a world traveler, a once close confidant who lived with Cassie when they were teenagers, and once called her sister. But that all came crashing down after Carrie says she was attacked. In court, she testified that Diddy once grabbed her by the neck and threw a wooden hanger at her. That, she claims, ended the friendship. But here's the twist. Even with that moment, she told the court that at one point there was real love between Cassie and Combs, that things weren't always dark. They traveled the world together, they partied, they laughed, which only made her testimony even more complicated and even more searched. But another name keeps popping up online. Young Miami. Real name? Caresha Brownlee. Known as one half of the rap duo City Girls, she's also known for her on-again, off-again romance with Diddy. So why is everyone Googling her? She's bold, she's famous, and she's got the world searching for her name again. Young Miami, one half of the City Girls, wasn't just Diddy's flame. She was also one of his employees, kinda. She hosted her own podcast, Caresha Please, on Diddy's Revolt Network. And guess who her first guest was? Yep, Diddy himself. In that episode, the two talked openly about their relationship, their connection, and their dynamic, which now has everyone replaying every second looking for clues. Was there a red flag? Was something off? Did she know more than she let on? It's like everyone suddenly became a body language expert overnight. But young Miami hasn't been called to testify. At least not yet. For now, she remains a person of interest in the court of public opinion, not the actual courtroom. And then there's Aubrey O'Day. She's been loud, she's been vocal, and she has a lot to say about Sean Combs. Aubrey was part of Danity Kane, the girl group Diddy formed through his MTV show Making the Band. And ever since that show ended, she's been slowly peeling back the curtain on what she says was toxic behavior behind the scenes. People remember her solo reality show on Oxygen. The final episode ended with her trying to call Diddy. He didn't answer. She said she wanted freedom. She wanted out from under the shadow she claimed he cast. So, naturally, people are wondering, will she take the stand? Could she drop a bombshell that changes the entire trial? So far, nothing's confirmed. But the speculation, loud. And then there's the biggest question of all. The searches are spiking. People want to know, with all this testimony, all these photos, all the media fire, could he actually be found not guilty? Unlike the O.J. Simpson trial, there are no live feeds here. No cameras in court, just headlines, just transcripts, just courtroom sketches. So the world waits and wonders. So, here we are. One of the most powerful figures in hip-hop now stands accused of some of the darkest allegations imaginable, with former friends, ex-lovers, and former employees all taking the stand. Every day brings new headlines, new testimonies, new evidence. But with no cameras in court and the public piecing it together from reports, podcasts, and social media, the truth still feels just out of reach. Is this a reckoning or a takedown? Was it power abused or power misunderstood? In a world where fame shields some and destroys others, only one thing is certain: everyone is watching. This is Burden of Proof, the case against Diddy, and the story is far from over.